taught you to hate the color of your skin? Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to?
And you know that when they took these names, it's because they wanted it to represent their savage football team, their warrior football team, their bloodthirsty football team. What better image was there to use than a bloodthirsty, savage native person? Well, we had to be separated. Like, I didn't want them to know that I was his mother. I didn't want him to talk about me. And, I didn't bring his name up because I didn't want him to be even more of a target. And that's another part of the damage done, that, through his school career, I was always involved. But then when it got to the high school, all of a sudden I had to, hide in the shadows because I didn't want him going through this stuff. And we're going to ignore that it makes you a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit uneasy. Maybe you don't feel quite so safe in our school.
There is an absurdity in that white people believe that they get to decide what is offensive and what isn't offensive. That they get to decide what hurts, what causes pain. As if they could throw a punch and determine whether the punch hurts or not. We are not your mascot. Mascot. An animal or a character used to represent a group or an organization. Captured in images, cartoons, caricatures. They're not real. They're animated. They're created, concocted. And they are dehumanizing, even or especially when portrayed by a costumed buffoon. They are a mockery of the very character for what the mascot is supposed to represent. We as Native people can't get past the hypocrisy of white school kids playing Indian, set against Native kids being beaten, abused, molested, murdered for actually being Indian. Now, of course, I'm talking about the residential schools where Native children for over 100 years were whisked away to be assimilated. Now, if you want to make the argument that this abuse, this physical abuse, sexual abuse, psychological abuse, didn't occur simply because they were Native, let's be clear. These kids were only in these schools because they were Native. And the government and churches that operated them, they did so with one objective: to kill the Indian and save the man. The white schools, on the other hand, mock the Indian and have fun doing it with complete disregard for accuracy, for history, for any semblance of authenticity. Native people are not in control of their own identity, of their own image. From the first white man who encountered us, we were misidentified. Indians, Redskins, Mohawk, Seneca, Iroquois, Lac de Flambeau. These aren't our words. They're yours. They're labels that you pinned upon us. Poets, authors, newspapers, history books, Hollywood, TV, the freaking internet. They all control the narrative on who we are and how the masses see us. The American author of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, L. Frank Baum, wrote just after Sitting Bull was murdered, "With his fall, the nobility of the redskin is extinguished, and what few are left are a pack of whining curs who lick the hand that smites them. The whites by law of conquest, are masters of the American continent, and the best safety of the frontier settlements will be secured by the total annihilation of the few remaining Indians. Why not annihilation? Their glory is fled, their spirit broken, their manhood effaced. Better that they die than live the miserable wretches that they are. History would forget these later despicable beings and speak in later ages of the glory of these grand kings of the forest and plain. We cannot honestly regret their extermination, but we at least do justice to the manly characteristics possessed by the early Redskins of America. Baum didn't just want us conquered or living under conquest. He wanted us exterminated so they could take our images and the glory that he created for us. This was written over 100 years ago. And this lies at the foundation of the mascot issue. Eliminate us, write us out of history, and then create a fairy tale. Nobility, grand kings, manly. Not for us, but for you. For your mascots, for your schools, for your sports teams. We're not your mascots. And of course you know this, because you ignore who we are and create an image, your own images, for who you wish us to be, so you can claim those characteristics for yourselves. Let's ignore where the word redskin comes from. Our bloody scalps, our bloody bodies turned in for bounties. Let's ignore Jefferson's merciless Indian savages reference in the Declaration of Independence. Let's pretend that the labels that you've placed upon us honor us. They don't. We're not honored. We're not your mascots. But of course you know that, because you don't honor us. You honor an image of your own creation. You honor something that you think you have power over. That's why it's a racist act. We know who we are. We know the history. Many of us know our language. We know our identity. It's not what you've created. It's who we are. And we resent you appropriating any semblance of our image. We resent and reject these false images. We reject the mockery. We're not your mascots. We're not honored, and we're not flattered.
I got problems on problems on problems on problems on problems on problems I solve them. I run through the money, the pressure be calling. Left on my blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back, tell me I'm garbage. I'm going through something, that's why I ain't calling.